This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone! Welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. This particular episode was honestly the hardest conversation for me to have, but probably the most important. With my guest today, Rachel Levin, author of the book Doughnut Diaries, we talk about the importance of body positivity. We talk about our own journeys with loving our physical selves and the importance of lifting other women up to loving their bodies as well. It was a really important conversation, which I hope you get some great tips for your own self-love journey. Hi, Rachel. Welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. It's so lovely to have you.
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this.
Would you be able to give the listeners, because I know that we're going to be talking about your book, Doughnut Diaries, in this conversation, but would you be able to give the listeners and myself a little introduction to who you are as we start
Of
off this
course.
conversation?
Of course. Thank you for asking. I've been in the fitness industry for over 24 years. I've been everything from a group X instructor to now a health coach and a body love advocate. So I I really kind of got into the industry because what better way to control my own body, right? What better way to control my own weight? And it just didn't work out that way. And here I am trying to be a good example and help other women. And I'm struggling my whole career with my own body. When I turned 40, I realized I don't want to do this anymore. I want to spend the rest of my life being happy and healthy. How do I do that? And it took a lot of time. It took a lot of deep dive. It took a lot of figuring out who Rachel really was. And I had to start doing some research on health at every size and binge dieting and restrictive dieting and all the things that it actually does to your body. And it's very harmful. So the last 10 years, five really, I have been focused on teaching my clients, teaching women how to love their bodies at any size, but to take care of them the best they can. And when I was given the opportunity of nothing but time in 2020, I decided to write my own story in my book, which you so kindly mentioned, the Doughnut Diaries, which is I use as a tool now to help inspire other people that they can get off that diet culture roller coaster and take care of their bodies, be happy, and eat a donut once in a while.
I think it's interesting that Kismet has kind of brought this conversation together, that brought us to and matched us in a way so we're able to have this conversation. I feel like my body journey has been very particular and different than the stereotypical journey that people have. And just to make sure I'm being vulnerable, because if I'm going to ask a guest to be vulnerable, I feel that I need to be vulnerable as well. And for those that are listening to maybe get some tips along the way from the both of us, I was always severely underweight. And I feel like people, when people talk about body positivity, it's usually learning to love your body when you're overweight or if you're just not like a model skin thin. And I grew up with everybody telling me, "Oh, I wish I looked like you." And it always really frustrated me because just to catch you up on my life story, it turned out I was diagnosed at 15 with celiac disease, and that was the reason I was severely underweight. My body wasn't capturing the nutrients it needed to be able to grow and thrive. And I always give my mother a hard time that if she maybe loved me more and pushed the doctor a bit more, maybe I would be taller. And I wouldn't be so short. But she, and it's when I'm really being fresh, I say that to her. But with I always used to say to people, "You don't wanna look like me because looking at I'm like this because I'm sick, not because there's" and it took a really long time for my body to recover. It's only within the last 5, 6 years where my body has kind of evened out and I've been able to gain the weight, and I'm still struggling of, "Oh, well, I was always rewarded for how skinny I was. Now that I'm at a normal weight, oh my goodness, what do I have to do to lose that weight again?" And sometimes I get in my own
Mhm.
head about it. I also grew up with women, my my mother, my aunt, my grandmother always, always, always talking about their weight and how they, didn't love their bodies, felt that there was something wrong with them. I always thought they were the most beautiful women in my life. So I was always very frustrated. So for all that, is there anything that I'm saying that you're able to relate to and maybe parlay into advice that's able to be used for others that they can use as well?
Well, you and I had different experiences. You were on the low end of the scale. I was always on the high. So, in that sense, but how you were sharing your story and what you were saying,
Mhm.
especially about the women in your life, I absolutely relate to that. The women in my life, same thing. Always talking about, oh, the next diet they're on.
Mhm.
Oh, I wish I could get. I mean, so I think a lot of us grew up in households like that because women just have been literally born into this world. Okay, you got to hate your body. You got to hate the size of your body, no matter what it looks like.
Mhm.
And I love that you have this other perspective. I don't love that you had to go through that. Through that, I'm sorry, but I do love that you have this. Like I was skinny my whole life and rewarded for that, and people don't get it. So
Mhm.
many times if someone is super, super thin, they're not healthy.
Right.
They're not. Something is going on with them.
Mhm.
And I can tell people until the day is long, we need fat. We need fat in our diets and we need fat on our bodies because it protects our bones and our organs, especially as we age. And do I believe that there are so many mentalities out there when it comes to body size and food? Absolutely. And the struggle is real to get through to those people. But I have to keep going because there are so many different experiences, just like you're sharing and I'm sharing with your listeners, that it's not one way. And the only thing that has ever in this work that I'm doing been a consistent thing is that thin and smaller bodies is healthy and beautiful and happiness. Anything bigger than that
Mhm.
is you're unhealthy, you're not lovable, you can't do any of these things. And that is the stereotypes that I am really with other women, especially women like you, trying to just disparage and get rid of, and hopefully people can realize that they too can just be free of these thoughts because that's what they are, they're thoughts.
Yeah, and it's also interesting of I also feel like there's no winning with women that even if you are skinny, that men are like, "Well, you don't have boobs or a butt, so there's nothing worth loving about you in that way either." And I never had boobs or a butt. So there was always like I was always looking at the curvy women and saying, "But I want to be you. Why do you want to be me?" And it took until recently that I'm like, no, that I'm really okay with being, this is what I got. I'm okay. And I feel like when I've had this discussion with other women, the response has been, well, it's easy for you to say because, you grew up in what you were saying, the opposite of what it's easier for you to get there. And it seems like based on what you're saying, you're giving people the tools where it doesn't matter what your history has been with this. Everybody can get to a place where just being happy with who you are. Do you feel like that starts from the inside before you get to the physical portion of you? What do you feel that maybe they go hand in hand? What do you think that process is for people?
I absolutely believe that. I've learned from my own experience and watching other women that until we're completely whole on the inside, it doesn't matter what you look like. I mean, I love to share the story because it's pretty clear on just what you're saying. So if you don't mind, I'm going to tell the story real quick.
Go for it.
I turned 40 years old. I was living in New York City, had a wonderful career. I was a size zero for the first time in my life. I had achieved a size zero, right? Accolades everywhere, everywhere. And I was miserable and uncomfortable and was like, this is not my body. This is not me. Who are you talking about? And I think when I turned 40, I had a very, very visceral reaction to all those feelings. And that's when I told you, I realized that until I get to know Rachel, until I understand who I am and where I come from and why I believe all these things about my body, clearly I'm never going to be happy, no matter what size I am. And that's what really charted this journey for me, is to have this physical being of a size zero that I wanted my whole life to be a size zero. And
Mhm.
now that I had it, I was even more upset and more miserable and more lonely and more sad and more. And so it finally dawned on me that it's like, okay, you have to love you. And that has been really hard in the beginning. It's not an overnight fix. I wish it was. And it wasn't easy. You know, there were lots of tears and there was lots of, like, you know, epiphanies, but coming out of that and learning who I was and knowing that that is really a never ending lesson has been so freeing. And I will also be honest with you and your listeners that when I stopped dieting, yeah, of course my body gained weight.
Yeah.
It had to heal. It had to heal from all the restriction I was doing. And to go through that in a different place that I ever had before, with grace and kindness and love towards myself, and just like, okay, body, do what you got to do, heal.
Right.
Um, it's been really wonderful. It's been really amazing.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack in what you just said that I may use this as a therapy session for myself too while we're at it. With it's also upsetting to me that women in particular get in this no-win situation with their bodies because I feel like um I'll never forget, I was watching TV and there was this one particular television show with this one particular actress, and a male family member of mine said, "Oh, see, they're not showing the bottom half of her body because she gained weight. And so they're only showing this part. And isn't that like, see, like you should make sure you always have a nice body, especially if you, because I wanted to be an actress when I was a kid, like every other girl or person out there wanting to be something that they never should be. But that stuck with me. And I'm
Hmm.
sure if I encountered that person and said, "Do you remember that conversation that they had?" they would deny it. But that actress had also just had a baby. And
Baby.
I also feel like women are such powerful, amazing beings. And I have so much respect for women because of what they're able to do just with their bodies naturally, and maybe some other people not naturally too, and all that they go through and sacrifice emotionally and physically. That for anyone, men in particular, to do anything other than worship their body is insane to me and so upsetting that I wish I could just shake some people and be like, "Do you not I want you to see how amazing and spectacular you are, even if they're not healthy." Their body, like when you're saying that your body was repairing itself, how incredible that is. And my body also had to go through a period of I gained 20 pounds in a year after not gaining weight from when I was 10 years old and no fluctuation at all. So it's a big change. How magical that my body was able to do that. As someone that is forced into a diet because I have celiac, and it irritates me to no end when I hear other people talking about having to go on a diet. Because if you don't have to, I don't understand why you would force that upon yourself.
Right.
So what because it takes a toll on my mental health having to think about what I'm eating every second of every day.
Hmm.
What did you notice in your mental health of stopping the dieting?
That's a beautiful question because it's so true. It was like all this time I had now that I wasn't thinking about food and what was going in my body and what I couldn't eat. every second of every day for 40 years. Well, longer than that, because even when I started this journey, I was still restricting. So I would, in all honesty, I haven't dieted in about 5 years. So
For you.
between 11 and 45, I was thinking about all those things. And when I stopped and I didn't have to, and I started eating foods that nourish my body, again, that is a whole nother story, because there is some figuring out, and I'm sure you understand that with celiac. You have to figure out what foods make you feel good and don't, mess with homeostasis. So I had to do that too for myself. But now that I know for the most part which foods make me feel energized, make me feel like I could take on the day, make me feel like my thoughts are clear, and then I don't have to think about it anymore, is just, oh my God, I can go and exercise. I can go somewhere with my boyfriend. I can go on a day trip with my girlfriends. I can hang out with my mom. I just have so much more free space up here to do other things and learn other things. Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten smarter since I started dieting. I'm not going to lie, because I
Yeah.
have so much more time to learn things and experience things. And I don't know if you felt this way, but I know that most women who are constantly dieting, they're very isolated, because
Mhm.
we can't go to social functions where there's going to be food. Absolutely not. We can't have family dinners because there's going to be food, unless I was making all the food, and I didn't know how to cook back then, so it was not a good thing. But I just feel so much freer around food. And are there foods still that I don't like? Absolutely. Like, I think kale is disgusting. I'll never eat kale. But there's so many other beautiful whole green foods that I do like and that I eat instead.
Yeah.
I think that we have this conflict with food. It's like, well, I hate that. That means I can't ever eat any vegetables. It
Right.
just, you know what I mean? It takes some time to figure these things out, but once you do, it's magic.
Yeah, that's the number one thing. I've been traveling throughout Europe for the past year, and my number one thing, and my father is one of the more picky eaters I've ever met, and he has no reason to be a picky eater. And he's coming to visit me. We're meeting up in Italy and doing this big long trip together, which will be interesting for a multitude of reasons. But I'm challenging him that he has to try different foods because he now is unfortunately been diagnosed with certain medical conditions that have are forcing him into certain diets that because he hasn't been taking care of his physical health in other ways along the way. So now he's forced into a diet. And it's it's so important of, oh, like I refused to have fish for the longest time. And then my body started rejecting. I have a stomach condition where my stomach can't break down meats, and I have a really negative reaction to chicken. So I was forced into trying different forms of food so I can get some substance into me. And now I'm obsessed with fish. And so I said to my father, "You've got to try fish because that might actually be really good for you and might help you in a tremendous amount of ways." So I also venture that instead of dieting, start trying things because that flavor that you're aching for, you might find it in something else, and it just might happen to be healthy for you. What an
Mm,
extra great bonus.
right.
My other question for you, I think COVID showed us that in addition to having a gym class, we need a mental health class. Um, but with the gym class, I struggled with because I was not coordinated. I was a total musical theater kid. And as I'm trying to be more physically fit, because my only health goals right now are I want to be able to be moving and be able to go for walks when I'm 80. I don't need to be have muscles. I don't need to have abs. I don't need any of that. I want to keep moving. And any male that I ask in my life is an athlete and gives me these ridiculous regimens and advice that because they're giving me advice to be super duper fit, and I don't need that. We already talked about before how important the mental health aspect of it is in order to feed into your physical health. What's your advice for just working out to be healthy, not necessarily to be able to go run a marathon?
I love that you put it that way, and especially how you use the example of men. And there's, I mean, let's be honest, men give women their workouts,
Yeah.
and 9 out of 10 men feel like it's perfectly okay to train a woman the way they train a man.
Mhm.
And I, again, trying to get into the the fitness industry and change the mindsets of some fitness professionals, not easy, but we'll get into that another time. I just feel like for me, I've always come from a place with my clients like we need to figure out what you like to do, what feels good to you, because if you don't, you're not going to stick with it. And so when people are like, I hate exercise, that is probably because someone has made you feel like that.
Mhm.
And so I have to take it back, way back. What did you do when you were a kid for movement? What did you like? Let's try a whole bunch of things and see what feels good. Do I ever push people to go where you have to work out in a gym? Absolutely not.
Mhm.
That's not, it doesn't feel good for everybody. And I think that like you had mentioned that you're not that coordinated, so maybe dance classes and things like that aren't your cup of tea. You like to walk, sounds like great exercise to me.
Yeah.
Find a place where you like to walk. The only thing that I will argue with people about is strength training has been proven for decades that it does increase muscle mass and it does increase bone density,
Mhm.
especially women. As we age, we lose, well, all people lose those things, but women who have osteoporosis in their family, or they're still struggling to stay thin, they're losing all those things. And strength training does help that. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to have big muscles. It's just strength training, weight bearing exercises. You don't even have to go to a gym. Buy a few dumbbells at home, learn how to do some extra full body exercises at home and do it that way. But I meet people where they're at, to answer your question. That was a long answer to your question, but I meet people where they're at. I do my best to help them figure out what type of movement feels best for them, and we go from there.
Do you um how do you find, you say that you use your book as a tool to help others. What in particular about your book? So if I'm unable to get access to you as, like we are right now,
Mm-hmm.
how can others that are buying your book use your book as a tool to help themselves? Does that make sense, that question?
It does make sense. And although my book is not structured as any kind of workout plan or meal plan, I'm just sharing my story with you. And I say 1,000 times throughout my book, you're not alone. So
Mm.
that is really my goal with my book, is for one, because I know that we women feel like we're struggling with this all by ourselves, and we're not. And, thankfully, women like you who have these podcasts, who are talking to all kinds of women, are getting the message out there louder and louder. So that's great. I just think the more people realize, oh, she struggled with that too, or she experienced that too, I am not alone, it tends to trigger your want and your need to learn more and
Mhm.
to do some research and educate yourself further. So if that's what my book is out there doing, great. If it's just helping people laugh a little bit about my experiences and go, oh yeah, I've done that too, or I experienced that too, then great. I'm happy with that too.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you talk about meeting people where they're at. You give fitness advice. It's clear that through the fitness advice and you're meeting people where they're at, emotional health and strength. How much of do you help them with meal planning? And are you able to do that, or do you work as a team with nutritionists to maybe help somebody, or do you try to just take the food out of the equation altogether? Because I know anti-diet here. So how do you navigate in talking with other people about that portion of it?
That's a great question. And I will say that I am not a nutritionist, but I do use my own experience if people have questions. Um, there are still so many lies out there that women believe, like, I have to count my calories,
Mhm.
I can't eat any fat, fruit has too much sugar. And I just invite people to have a conversation with me and maybe open their minds to the process of, if it comes from the earth, it comes from a tree, it comes from the ground, as opposed to it comes in a package. Like let's be realistic here. Let's think about it. So I do work with women, educating them on labels, educating them on whole foods. I love to do cooking demos and post my food on social media to show that I am using whole foods as much as possible. And
Mm.
I'm still learning about ultra processed foods. I mean, like I said, this is a never ending journey. And I'm just sharing my knowledge and sharing my experiences. I do not shame people in any way, shape, or form. I don't expect people to change overnight. It took me decades to understand. So I have to be patient with other people. But I'm just being a good example. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't believe with what I'm about to say. I'm going to veer off track seemingly for a hot second and then bring this back. But when you're
Okay.
talking about sharing your own experience, do you watch the reality TV show Vanderpump Rules or have you heard about it?
I have heard of it. I have not watched it.
So there is a person on the show. Her name is Lala, and she's a very aggressive, no nonsense female. And she went through a very traumatic experience with her former fiance and Hollywood nonsense and horrible things that he did. And so she says whenever a fight occurs and it's um a lot to do with everybody only knows about Vanderpump Rules. I only even know about Vanderpump Rules because of this thing Scandival that was shoved down our throats. And this season they're dealing with the aftermath of it. And this woman Lala keeps saying, "Well, it's like I'm only triggered because of my experience." And she keeps vocalizing, "I don't want what happened to anybody else to happen to me, or I want to bring my learnings onto you." So she keeps projecting, and all these fights start happening because of her projection. So this is where I went off course, but I'm bringing it back to the topic of conversation. I've watched it on TV. It happen in a non-productive way of projecting one's experience onto others. How do you keep it healthy of not it becoming too much when you're using your own experience to help other people through their process?
That was a great segue. I love it. And, I mean, and you know what? It's so funny. And I think I mentioned to you in the beginning, we women are so hardwired to believe what we believe. So
Mhm.
when I am talking to the women in my life about food, exercise, blah, everything, body love, it's so funny because some of them like, I'm not talking smack about my body. I'm just saying I gained weight. And I was like, I mean, I literally like have to take a moment because they already are so defensive and want to argue with me about it. And so what I've learned is it's a really good expression to meet people where they're at, but it's a skill.
Mhm.
And so I've learned how to read the room, read the situation. And if it's going to get to that like reality show peak of like, women throwing tables, I just stop talking. I just stop because why am I going to push my experience onto you if you are no way, shape, or form ready?
Mhm.
Why? It's useless energy. It's a waste of time. And I I just know I'll be there for you when you're ready. And
Mhm.
that's all I can do.
Do you feel that every single person, our experiences are all pretty much there's always similarities and overlaps, or do you come across people where, "Oh, your experience is very different from mine. I have nothing in my toolbox to be able to help you." Has that ever happened?
No. I
Yeah.
think even like I was mentioning, even your experience growing up with the complete opposite of mine, you and I had very same feelings about it and
Mhm.
still do.
Yeah.
So that's where I pull from is that shared emotion, that shared pain, that shared wanting to be better instead of, well, I have no idea what it's like to be skinny. I mean, that part doesn't matter, right? It matters how you felt growing up and how you feel about yourself now. And I can relate to that 100%. And that's where I try to come at from when I'm talking to another woman. It's like I hear you
Mhm.
without stealing their thunder, I guess I should say. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
That's a conversation I have with my sisters all the time, where when they're telling me something, I respond back with my own story of where I felt their same feelings. And something that we had to all learn together is when I'm repeating back a story, it's not me telling you that I don't care about what you just had to say. In fact, it's the opposite. It's me making sure I'm repeating back to you in my own words, my understanding of what you just said. And that way, if I'm misunderstanding, we can fix it and move forward together in a productive way, which I really admire that you have found your way of doing that with other people. When if I am a family member and it's clear of where I'm at with my feelings about my body, and I've already shared that I'm watching females in my life not be in the same place that I'm at, be it where maybe we were at a couple of years ago. If we're watching a family member or a friend be really down on themselves, what's the first step in helping them get to a place where ultimately that they can help themselves? Because I feel like there's only so much other people can do, especially in this space.
My best suggestion to you is you have to make sure that that other person is ready, because like I said, women are just innately negative against themselves, but it's normal for them. It's home for them. It's why wouldn't I talk about my body? Why wouldn't I? But it doesn't mean they're ready to take action. And I've learned that, especially with the women in my life, until one of them, because they're all doing their own thing, until one of them comes to me privately and says, help me,
Hmm.
then I just kind of have to be there to support. But I will say what I love to do, sneak in, is factual information when they're like saying something so ridiculous that we've all been trained to learn. Like, I'll give a perfect example. How many calories have you been taught your whole life that you have to ingest? Just say the number. We all know it.
I haven't been taught any of that because of how I grew up in a different
Okay,
way.
fair
I
enough.
also ignored and rejected people telling me any of that information. So
Okay,
I
but
actually don't
on,
know.
on most on most labels of any food, it says based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet.
Okay.
And then if you're ever in a calorie deficit, which I hate that expression, but anywho, if you're trying to lose weight, they're trying to make it sound cool, right? A calorie deficit, which 2,000 calories you already are. But women have now learned to believe they can only ingest 1,400 calories a day.
Okay.
14. That's maybe two meals. And they're so hung up on the amount of calories that they're eating that it doesn't matter where that food source comes from.
Right.
And so I have a friend now, she's obsessing over calories. And I just simply said in a conversation with her, I said, calories are energy.
Mhm.
Calories are the thing in food that nourishes your body and gives you energy to get through your day. And left it at that.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit here and argue with her. Because she's already in her head. She's like
Yeah.
1,400 calories a day. That's it. So
Mhm.
until she starts to experience how that's not nourishing her body and not feeding her mind and soul and all those things, she's not ready to have a conversation about it.
Right.
So,
Do you feel that it's when is it more concerning to you if you see someone excessively dieting or excessively exercising? Or is it really if they start to make a mental health dive that maybe perhaps the response is more aggressive for you in your experience and you have a client? If they start leaning in any one particular direction, which one has become the most concerning to you?
oh man, that's a great question. Luckily, since I've been on this journey, all my clients are kind of forced to be on this journey with me. But I did have a client in New York who was so fearful of putting the weight back on that it made her crazy.
Mhm.
And she was very hard to deal with. And at the end, towards our relationship, I had to tell her, I said, this is not just affecting you, this affects me and our relationship. And I am finding it really hard to be in your presence when you're like this all the time.
Mhm.
Because if you're going to be so laser focused on the weight, you're not enjoying your success. You're not enjoying the weight loss. You're not enjoying your health. And it makes it really hard to be a part of this.
Is that, if you don't mind me asking, when you talked about being a size 0 at when you were 40, is that kind of what snapped you out of that exact mentality, maybe being so focused on the weight? Did you have a similar experience and then that's what kinda got you out of it, or was it something else? And we don't need to share that, and we could cut
No, no,
this.
no, I'm happy to share. I wish I could say yes, but that whole epiphany of turning 40, realizing blah blah blah, it was for me the next step was the mental health part of it. So
Mhm.
the food part and the weight part and the body size came a little later because I realized that I was suffering so much internally that I had to deal with that first. So for me, this has been a process. It's been stages. And so the body stuff, the weight, all that came, I want to say, like right before COVID hit. I want to say I was like, I remember 2019 ish, like fall, sitting in Central Park, just chomping on a donut for the first time in like 10 years and loving every bite of it, loving every moment of it, and not worrying about what those calories were going to do to my body.
Right. Yeah, I'm so jealous because 'cause I'm never gonna be able to have that. I'm always gonna be
I know.
smoking.
I could tell you they make gluten-free donuts, but you're probably like, ugh.
They're getting better. They're not quite there. I People always make fun of me when I'm like, "I really just miss Dunkin' Donuts," and they're like, "Dunkin' Donuts?" I'm like, "You don't understand how good they are when you have a gluten-free donut." Um, is there I love to emphasize with people because there's so many people that come up to me and say, I'm doing this gluten-free diet, and can you give me some advice? Because I heard that it makes your skin clear. I heard that it helps with all X, Y, and Z. And it's actually quite dangerous because gluten-free stuff is usually so high in sugar that you could end up giving yourself diabetes if people go on a gluten-free diet when they're not supposed to. So I feel like that's also the tricky thing about dieting. There's always a flip side to the coin, and why I'm always anti-dieting. But I always emphasize, if you really need to do it, give yourself a cheat meal like once a week. Do you have any advice with people that if they insist on dieting that, okay, but my advice to you is blank?
Hmm. I'm really doing my best to not do that just
Mhm.
because if they have their mindset on a diet so bad and they are going to do it no matter all the dangers you present to them, then I just tell them you really need to get a nutritionist and get somebody who knows what they're talking about, who can guide you safely. Because agreed, the whatever the latest thing, I mean, we could sit here and change this topic and start talking about the injectables. You
Right.
think those people who are just, doing that every week need it? Should
No.
be doing? Absolutely not. But are you going to be able to tell them differently when they see the weight falling off? No.
Yeah.
So people like me, where I'm at, have to be there on the flip side, like you're saying. I have to be there to support the person when the weight comes back, or they now have a new health thing that they have to deal with, or they have a new emotional thing that they have to deal with because of all that. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of waiting in the wings, to be honest.
So we've talked a lot about the challenges of this whole process. What has been, between your book and everything that has come afterwards, what has been the most rewarding part of all of it?
As for myself or for other people?
Both.
Okay. I the freedom I feel for myself and the happiness that I feel for myself. And when I do have those moments, because again, 45 years is a long time to be on a diet. When I have those moments where something doesn't fit and I wanted it to fit, and I'm like, well, if I just, but then I'm like, this is just a moment. Guess what? There's a size that will fit me. There's a piece of clothing that will feel good on my body now.
Mhm.
And just to know that with consistency, my body is going to heal itself and take care of itself for as long as I possibly am on this earth. So I'm very grateful about that. When it comes to other people, I still do get upset about the things that I hear that are still running rampant in our society about women's bodies, about food, about diets. But I just do my best to project, like I said, use myself as an example and project that energy out to the world. So that's, I hope, answered your question.
Yeah, this is going to be my last question before I do a rapid fire at the end of every episode. So my last big question for you is are there any mantras or simple things that people can start doing when they are looking in the mirror and feeling down on themselves? Is there any simple things that they can do to just kind of start changing the mindset and getting them on that, taking step one?
Absolutely. And I let any new group or any new women I work with, this is their first task. And I do this all the time in workshops. I bring hot pink. I love hot pink. So I bring hot pink Post-its and tons of pens and I give to everyone. And I say, I want you to write down on this Post-it one thing that you don't believe about yourself, but you wish you did. And so a lot of times it's body related. And hopefully it came out into a positive light. So I'll use mine as an example. My body is healthy today.
Mhm.
And I ask them to take it home, put it somewhere where they're going to see it, and say it, not just read it, say it out loud to themselves, at least once a day, hopefully 2 or 3. But I always put in the caveat. I said, please understand that there is no way that you're going to believe it right away. So just accept that. Just accept that you're going to feel silly saying it. You're not going to believe it. But I promise in 1 week after saying it to yourself, there might be a little bit more like, I am beautiful today. My body is healthy today. And there will be a little bit of, it's possible. And
Mhm.
then keep saying it for another week. And that's how I shifted my mindset because I said the most negative, disgusting, horrible things about myself to myself. I
Mhm.
was my own worst enemy. And so that had to be my first step, was speaking kindly to myself.
Yeah.
And what better way than to see it, to say it, and just sit in your discomfort with it. And then one day you'll just be like, you know what? I am beautiful. I am smart. I am healthy. Whatever it is that you don't believe about yourself, and start there.
Yeah. Oy. I just got brought back to a moment in time that I had to work through, but that's for a conversation at a different time. Before I let you go, I have some rapid fire questions in the eat, explore, love vein. So, what is your favorite food city?
Ooh, good question. Spain for sure. Sevilla for sure.
I just fell in love with Barcelona because it had so many good gluten-free options. I was in heaven, and they had a lot of really good gluten-free donuts, which
Yeah.
I haven't been able to have in a while. What for a vacation do you prefer to be active or relax?
Ooh. Probably active.
What is the city that you learned the most about yourself?
Probably Sevilla. My grandparents are from Spain. And
Mm.
so it was really cool to kind of feel like connected to my family there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm having a similar experience with my father this upcoming week, so I'm excited about that. My final question for you. So there's your book, Doughnut Diaries, that everybody needs to get. Where can they find the book? And if they want to get access to you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. My book is available on Amazon or my website, Rachel Lavin Lifestyle and Wellness, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at this time.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much, Rachel. The time flew by. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. I hope that this felt like a safe space for you. Thank you for being so vulnerable. I really, really, truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. You made it very easy, and enjoy the rest of your European trip. I'm so excited, and hopefully we can connect and you can tell me all about the week with Dad.
Yes, absolutely. Alrighty. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you. Bye, Ashley.
Thank you so much for joining today's episode of Eat, Explore, Love, the podcast. I hope this was helpful for you listening to go on a journey of loving yourself and your body. Make sure to check out Rachel's book, Doughnut Diaries, and visit her website, which is in the description of this episode. If you have your own story to share, you can always reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. As always, till next time. Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on hieatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time. This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Sarah Mientka.